Hey guys, how's it going? Marcelo here, and I'm not the only one who's here. The Rebirth of 3D platformers is here too. This is kind of a follow-up video to the Ratchet and Clank First Impressions video I did. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll link down below. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of what I said by the end of the video, because that was kind of a precursor to this video, but basically, the Cliff Notes version is... Playtonic has claimed Yooka-Laylee to be the Rebirth of 3D platformers, and I feel that because Ratchet and Clank is out now and we've played it and I've played it and critiqued it and all that, that's more of the start of the Rebirth of 3D platformers, because of course Ratchet and Clank's a platformer slash shooter, but it is a platformer. So with the fact that it's Insomniac, it's a company we've known from the good old days and all that, and they've went back to one of their old IPs and revitalized it, and it did spectacular. That just proves right there that, let's see if I can phrase it in the way I was trying to phrase it in the last video. If you're the original owners of a particular platforming IP and you want to go back to it but you haven't, let's take a specific example like Naughty Dog with Jak and Daxter. They were going to make a Jak 4 and Neil Druckmann was going to be the head of that. Well, he was the head of that. And with the art style and everything and the new look they were going to go for, they felt that it wasn't exactly the Jak that people knew and that they created. So they kind of dropped that project. But basically all you'd have to do is look at what Insomniac did with Ratchet and Clank. You would have to, whether or not you keep the lighthearted tone that the first Jak and Daxter had, or the more darker tone that the second one took on and the third one as well, whether or not it's a blend of those or one or the other is however they would want to do it. But returning back to like the classic art style, and, well, again, depending on which art style would match the mood, not that they're going to make a Jak 4 that's strictly the style of 2 and 3. But, I don't know, there could be some way. Say they rebooted Jak and Daxter, that would be a good way to do it, and I think you could find a good blend of, take what you've learned from storytelling from Uncharted and Last of Us, and then just combine, of course not too utterly heavy of a narrative in Jak and Daxter, but if you combine good storytelling, not that the original Jak games didn't have good storytelling, because they did, but it was much more like a simple Crash-esque storytelling, where it wasn't too deep, at least until 2 and 3. What you could do is combine like a good narrative, like a really good narrative, that can get deep, at times, or whatnot, what have you, but have some of that classic Jak and Daxter feel, be it from the art, be it from the tone, the mood, the atmosphere, be it from the locations. Look at, again, you can bring back some old locations, or however, this is a kind of, I kind of just went off topic with the example, but basically, say Naughty Dog does still own Jak and Daxter, it doesn't hurt to go back to those IPs, because Insomniac just did it with Ratchet and Clank, and it's selling like hotcakes, and it's doing really good, it's getting really good ass reviews. So, I think Sucker Punch still has Sly Cooper, so to make a Sly 5 or even a Sly reboot in time for the new Sly movie, which of course now we've heard news recently that the director said that it's kind of in development hell right now, so it's probably going to get delayed and not come out this year, maybe sometime early to mid next year. But if they wanted to do a tie-in game, then that'd be cool. Who knows, maybe even they're trying to say that it's delayed and then the movie, and then there's actually a game in development. I don't know. But a tie-in game just like Ratchet and Clank, that'd be actually kind of cool. But it doesn't hurt to go back, and it's really funny because I don't really want to get too weird with this, but I'm thinking of Naughty Dog specifically because they said, well, we're maturing, we want to tell deeper stories and have more realistic, quite literally, characters, and that the players can really get attached to on an emotional level, which is absolutely fine because lots of games do that nowadays. But I think too many games do that nowadays. There was a certain simplicity to like Crash, to Jak and Daxter, to Spyro the Dragon that we still equally fell in love with as deep as someone who can get into Last of Us. It's really funny when you look at it that way because I'm a classic Naughty Dog fan, and say Caleb, for example, is a modern Naughty Dog fan. He loves Last of Us and he's really starting to get into Uncharted. But he's never played Crash or Jak and Daxter. I had him play Crash a little bit, and he kind of likes it, so But there's a certain simplicity to it in terms of the storytelling, which, again, wasn't their exact strong suit back then, but again, with how much they've learned in terms of narrative and all that, bringing in some pretty good, emotional story into Crash, however you would make that happen, and combine that with either Twinsanity-esque, open-ish world platforming, or just classic Naughty Dog hallway linear platforming, you can make a pretty good game out of that, I think. It's just ideas right now. But the Rebirth of 3D platformers is definitely happening this year because we already have Ratchet and Clank, we're getting Yooka-Laylee, hopefully something of Crash comes because we've got yet another tease very, very recently. So I think that we're finally getting ready. Like I said before in the Ratchet and Clank First Impressions video, it's gonna bother me if I ever hear somebody, which I haven't heard yet, but there's gonna be someone, at least someone, who's gonna be like, oh my god, Ratchet and Clank, a modern day 3D platformer that isn't Mario that's doing well? Who would have thought? Well, we've been wanting, us 3D platformer fans have been wanting a game like this, be it an old IP or a new IP that still kind of had that classic platforming, 3D platforming feel. We've been waiting, and I'm glad that we finally got one, and we're getting more. So the audience never died. It's just that these darker, mature, more, I guess, compelling games for some of those other audiences have just been coming out, and they've been coming out in spades. That's all you can. I asked the clerk at GameStop when I picked up my pre-order of Ratchet and Clank. I said, "So, how many people have come to pick up the Ratchet and Clank pre-orders?" And because it was on the same day, he goes, "Well, actually, we've been getting a lot more Dark Souls 3 pre-orders coming in than Ratchet and Clank." And I was like, okay. I mean, it's not like I was like, oh, how can that be? Because, of course I know how that can be. Those games are really good, really popular, with their audiences. And I've played Bloodborne. It's okay, I can't get into it like Wes does, because Weston loves those kinds of games. He got Dark Souls. His brother, I didn't see him there, but he had told me that his brother was going in that same day to get their pre-order copy of Dark Souls 3. Well, I went to go get Ratchet and Clank. I didn't see him there, but I digress. The point being is that those games are still selling. Since like the mid 2000s, they've been selling, and they've been selling. And 3D platformers just started dwindling down around that time as well, which is very unfortunate, But going back to like how Naughty Dog is like, well, we're maturing, we're growing, and kind of going back to Jak and Daxter, we'll never not consider it, but being a little tentative about it, I don't think there's any reason you should feel tentative about it, because you can take what you've learned from these other more mature games and find a way to interject that into an old IP, into like Jak and Daxter, or say they did buy back the rights to Crash, then you could do that. I don't know. But basically, it doesn't hurt to go back to an older franchise, especially if people really want it, especially if, it's been on hiatus for so long. The Spyro 20th anniversary isn't coming until 2018, and I hope to God that something good, not just something, but something good happens with that. Hopefully he gets the hell out of Dodge with Skylanders by that time, because, again, it's really funny how, I think even, I was talking to G-Man about this, and Ted Price is like, no disrespect to the guy, he is awesome, he created Spyro, he's amazing, and, he's been promoting the hell out of Ratchet and Clank, but I find it very baffling how he's like, oh, they're treating Spyro and Skylanders very, very well, and I think it's still pretty faithful to the old Spyro, and I'm like, what? He bought it for his children, and I'm like, okay, what? It's really weird. It's really funny how people work like that, because either you're taking an old IP you used to have and bringing it back, or, you would like to return to one of your older IPs, but you don't own the rights anymore. You can't have a definitive, like, we're going to do it, like a good say in that sense if someone else has it, and especially if they're being kind of dicks about it, because, That's why we didn't get Crash and PlayStation All-Stars. Too much money and all that, I think. So, from what I've heard, you know. But, basically, I find it funny how, I don't know, just to jump back real quick, how Ted Price actually really likes Spyro the Skylanders, and he won't really bother to try and buy back the rights to make a Spyro the Dragon game, you know, otherwise. It's really weird, I don't know, but I hope that Spyro comes back just as faithfully as he was, you know, faithful to how he was back then, and I'm hoping, you know, we're all hoping that Crash comes back at this E3, and it's pretty much yeah, it's a yes, until they, you know, until they say definitively whether or not something's happening. We're just gonna assume there's too many teases, so it's gonna be happening. Ratchet and Clank did phenomenal. It's doing phenomenal, you know, at the moment. So, Yooka-Laylee, A Hat in Time for the indie 3D platformers. If these indie people can get picked up more and get all their games onto consoles, then that'll be even better, because it's fine for the PC gamers, because that's how most indie games come out, is for PC, and that's fine and all. I'm not too much of a PC gamer, so I'm trying to dabble into that now, but for the consoles, the classic console players, gamers, and having indie 3D platformers, big budget 3D platformers, I'm really more focusing on big budget 3D platformers, because that's the one way, the one surefire way that the audiences will be like, you know, we're back in the game. 3D platformers are back in the game, and they're back stronger than ever. Ratchet and Clank should be the prime example of that. It looks beautiful, it plays well, the characters are likable, the story is easy to follow, and not just for it being a reboot, but for it being a game. If you don't know Ratchet and Clank and you never played the original game or any of the games, you'll get into this one just fine for the PS4. And like I said in the last video, I had just beaten the first game before picking up the pre-order, so it was very familiar to me. But again, this is about Ratchet and Clank specifically. Ratchet and Clank, though, should be the sign to everyone, hey, big budget 3D platformers can still happen, and they can still be good, they can still do immensely well. You know, so here's to hoping basically, something in my eye, sorry. Here's to hoping basically that they keep coming. Big budget 3D platformers should keep coming back, and I think that they will start coming back, because we, again, have Yooka-Laylee on the way. We have something potentially for Crash to look forward to, so, and right now those are the only few examples I have at the moment, but hopefully more companies that still hold the rights to their older, you know, I said Ty has, you know, Ty 4, it's a 2D platformer on like Steam and all that, but hopefully, say they made more faithful Ty 4, I don't know, something like that. If they made something else with Ty, if they made for consoles, if they made something with Sly Cooper, if they made something with, what other 3D platformers are there? Like really, with Spyro, you know, basically, I keep saying basically, I'm sorry, but this is the rebirth of 3D platformers. This is the rebirth of 3D platformers, and I couldn't be more excited. So hopefully we get more big budget 3D platformers, and all the indie people need to keep making, who want to make platformers, need to keep making platformers too, so that way they can come back and not rule the world like the way, you know, shooters and the more grittier games are doing, but just get back in the game, because that's how they were back then. They didn't exactly dominate everything. I mean, Crash was doing really good, Spyro did really good, you know, but I don't want to say basically. What I'm trying to say is they're coming back. So hopefully we get more from these companies, or even new companies, but more crabs. I'm Marcelo. What do you guys think of this? I'll see you guys later. Let's chat in the comments about this. I'll see you guys later. Take care. I'm an idiot.